Begin the current Daf in Mesech is Succah Daf Mem Tes. Begin 3 lines down the top of the Yomit, but we continue with the discussion of previous stuff regarding the Nesachim, regarding the libations in general, and because it relates to that of Nisach HaMayim, which is unique to that of Mesech the Sukkah. Some of the shiurs comes by the Kazik and the Chesed of Hem Davachayim B'Shem is joining us today's Zav should be Leil Nishmas Yishud Tzipayra Bas Zev Wolf Sheshav Aliyas Neshama. Something discussed in today's Daf are the ceremony for pouring the water, the Nisach HaMayim, the status of the congealed wine beneath the Mizbeach, which would come down. You're pouring a lot of wine down over there in the Mizbeach. How wine can satiate a person like food, the merits of Chesed as compared to Tzedakah. Some of the key terms, the concepts of today's Daf we'll discuss are Shisen, which are these big hole that was in the Mizbeach going down into the Tahim, according to some. Nicer is when the carbon is left over at a designated time, you can't be macabre anymore, you have to burn it in a separate area. Me'ila is when someone has benefit and misappropriates that of hektish, you have to bring a special carbon. So we begin the current Daf, 3 lines down the top of the Amid on Daf Mem Tes. We have many different opinions regarding where exactly did they pour these libations and where is it from. So Shisen, which is this hole that's beneath the Mizbeach, which is opposite the area of where they would pour the libations, it was created from the 6 days of creation. Shinem, like it says the pasuk in shiur. Chamuke, which Rashi explains means the hidden, Yerechayach of your sides, Kamoy Chaloim, are like jewels. Maisi de Aman is the handiwork of a craftsman, which that's a shiur. Shiur is talking about the beauty of the woman. That's the relation between Hashem and the Jewish people, but it's obviously homiletically interpreted and as an allegory. Chamuki Yerechai, what does it mean, the hidden of your sides, of your thighs? Ela Shisen refers to the Shisen because Yerechai is like the Yerech Mizbeach. On the side of the Mizbeach was where the Shisen were, as we showed the picture in the previous Daf. It was there by the corner of the Mizbeach. Now, Kamay Chalam, what does it mean? It's like jewels. So the word Chalam is Shemachulalim. The word Halal is hollow, the yard not them, it goes down to the depth. And when it says Maisi de Aman, it's a handiwork of the craftsman. Who the craftsman? So Maisi de Om Nasir Shakadosh Baruch Hu, it's the handiwork of the craftsman of Kadosh Baruch who made it in Sheishes, Yomei Bereishis. That's one source for the Shisen. Additionally, Tanabei B'Shmal, he turned the Brisa. Actually, Bereishis, as we know, everything is the word Bereishis. The word Bereishis, I'll take a Bereishis, don't read in the beginning. Elabarashis. God created the Shis, which is these holes that God made it. Now, that's one interpretation that is from Hashem. But Tanu in the Brisa that actually, as Taisa points out, that this mandama holds that actually David HaMelech had made it. Rabbi Shloimy says, Shisin Mechulalim, these holes were hollow, but you're not to the time and went down to the depths. You know, like it says the pasuk in Yeshaya, the pasuk says, Ashira no lididi. I'm going to sing now for my beloved, meaning HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that because of him I'm going to sing, which in his place I'm going to cry and bemoan the loss of the Beis HaMikdash, where Shiras Doidi Lekarmai, the song of my beloved for his vineyard, meaning because of his vineyard, that Kerem Haili Didi, my beloved had a vineyard, Bekeren Ben Shaman, in Eretz Yisrael, which is the fattest corner of all the lands. Vayazkehu, which means he built fortified cities which were surrounded with doors and with bolts like a ring, which that's the targum of Iska, so he encircled it. Vayisaklehu, like a person who clears out his vineyard from stones, where, in other words, he cleared out the nations from in front of the Jewish people that they shouldn't be there in their land. Maybe they're going to cause the Jewish people to sin. And by and he planted beautiful and great quality grapevines, and not just the vines, rather the roots themselves. And he built a tower inside of it. And Begam Yakev, and also a Yakev, which is a pit that's dug, where Chatzabah, he dug in over there for the wine. So that's the pasuk in Yeshaya. So the Gemara explains what does that mean that he went and he planted the soirik, which is the root itself, not the branches. The Beis HaMikdash, this refers to the Beis HaMikdash, which is the shayrish, the root of the Jewish people, which is endeared in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And even Migdal B'Teich, what does it mean that in that Beis HaMikdash he built a tower? It's the Mizbech that's referred to the Mizbech, which is made like a tower, like a mighty tower. And the Gam Yekiv Chatzabah, he also made in that Migdal, in the Mizbech, he made this pit, that refers to the Shisen. So you see that this was in the Beis HaMikdash, which again, that means to say that David HaMelech made this in Mizbech. A third interpretation, time when the Brisa of something, he says, Lul Cotton, says actually, there was a small a window, like skylight, that was from top down. Hayubein Kevish Mizbech was between the ramp and the Mizbech, because Rashi explains the ramp was a length of 32 amas, and they went on the incline of a height of 9 amas till it was equal to the height of the Mizbeach, which was a height of 9 amas. Now, the top of the ramp does not connect to the Mizbeach. There was actually a little space that separated, as Gemara says, that says, you should make the oilus, the meat and the blood. It compares the blood to the meat. Just like blood has to be thrown, we know that halach is zrika. So dubas had to be thrown, which teaches you that because there was an airspace between the ramp and the mizbeach, you couldn't just carry it onto the mizbeach. You had to actually throw it on, and that was this lul was in that space, in that gap. And this was b'mador b'shalkevish. It was on the western part of the ramp because the width of the ramp was 16 amas. So the 8 amas towards the west was where this gap was. Now, in that hole was where the Nesachim would go down into, which was made right there on the southwestern corner of the Mizbeach, which it was surrounded on all 4 sides till the ground, and the ground of the Azar was made out of marble, so the wine's not getting sucked into the ground, as normally you would pour wine, would get absorbed into the ground, no. So all the Nesachim of the wine all year went down over there, and it's just sat over there, because again, it's marble, it's not getting absorbed into the ground. Which, as Rashi points out, this Tana obviously does not hold that the Shisin went down to the Tahain, as he actually is going to say later on that it disagrees with Rabbanan. It would fill up into this hole that was between the ramp and the Mizbeach. Now, once in every 70 years, Pirchei Kahuna, the young Kahana, would be Yardim Hashem to get down into that hole. And we gather from the Yain Karish, there would be congealed wine, which would be similar to the cakes of the dried figs that they had in the times of the Beis HaMikdash. And they burnt those cakes of the wine in a holy place in the Azar. And because they took it out from the Shisin, they did it so that it shouldn't fill up from all the Nesachim, because all the Kabbalah Tzibur Yachid, the only Nesachim except the Chatzah Asham, so they burn it because it's forbidden to have Anah, because it's holy. How do we know this? Like it says the pasuk in the Midbar. It says that when it talks about the Niska Revius Ahim like Kebes Echad, it says by Kodesh Haseich, you should pour it in the holy. Nesach Sheichel Hashem, it's a libation of intoxication for Hashem. So we're comparing the burning of it, which we're going to say in a moment. How do we see anything about burning over here? But we compare the burning to the Nesachim, which the pasuk says V'niska. So it's talking about the Nesachim as a continuum base, which is teaching Kashem Shenisucha B'Kedusha, just like obviously the pouring is done in the holy state. So that the burning has to be done in the holy state, which Rashi points out. The only thing we're learning out over here is that the burning has to be in the holy state, and meaning not in the chayil, which is further out of the azab. Because taking out the wine from the shisin, that was obvious. We just don't want it to fill up. We don't need a pasuk for that. Pasuk is just teaching that it should be done, and when we take it out, it should be burned in the holy area. It says, "My mashma." What do you say anything about burning over here in this pasuk? It's just about kodesh Hashem, nesach sheichel Hashem. So Ravina says it actually asay kodesh. Actually, we have a gzera shava, which Rashi actually says now we could actually learn out that it's actually a mitzvah to take it out and burning. Both of them we could learn out from this gzera shava. Because Simcha says in the holy you should do the libation. A different halacha regarding burning the leftover carbon that wasn't eaten at a designated time. You have to burn it in the fire. You can't eat it because it's holy. So both of them say the word kodesh, and over there it's talking about burning. Also here when it says kodesh, it's also about burning, and therefore we see that the burning also has to be done in a holy area. Now the Gemara has a question. Regarding the following brisa, we had a machlekes regarding what the shisin were. What did it go all the way down to the depth? Did it go all the way down only to the floor of the azara? So the Gemara says, "Kaman Nazal Tanya," which actually is a Mishnah Masechtas Me'ilah. According to which opinion is the following Mishnah going like? The Mishnah says that the Sachim regarding the libations, betchila in the beginning, meaning from when it was sanctified until it was poured, mo'il mehen, there's halacha of me'ilah because it's kachim, and it would have halacha of misappropriation. Yod l'shisin, once however it was poured down into the pits. Then there's no more me'ilah because you have no more utility for avoid anymore. So the Gemara wants to know, according to whom did the Mishnah have to say that it's not going to be me'ilah anymore? Says the Gemara, shall we say to Rabbi Tzaddik, who he holds that it doesn't go down to the depths, it goes down only to the floor of the Azara, and every 70 years they would clear it out, where it's possible to take it out and to bring it, because the Rabbanan, everything would be going like Rabbanan, hanachsim all the time. What do you mean it goes down to the depths? What do you mean after it went down? No one's getting it. It's down into the depths. So you can even say it's like the Rabbanan, because it's talking about b'de'ikra. We're talking about where if somebody, let's say, put a bowl hanging down into the shisin, and after it poured down, he went and he received it. So it could be after that, but it was already done, and then that we would be saying this halacha that's no me'ilah. Now the Ikdam actually that those that say the other way. Lema, let's say this that we learned that it would go down to the shisin. There's no me'ilah. Let's say it's Rabbani. Let's say it's like Rabbanan. And that if a person goes and he catches it, we're saying there's no me'ilah, and because there's no utility anymore, and let's say below Belazar Tzaddik, the first version thought it's only Belazar Tzaddik, because according to him, it's there, you could use it, and not Leibanan, and we said no, it could be Leibanan. The second version says, no, let's say it's Rabbanan, not like Belazar Tzaddik. You know why? Because the Belazar, it's like Belazar, Akad B'Gdosh Shasai. What do you mean? How could it be there's no Me'ilah? It's less sanctity, because you told me you have to burn it in the holy state. Obviously it's less Kedusha for the fact that you have to burn it, so actually you should have Me'ilah. So how could it seemingly would be not Belazar Tzaddik. So the Gemara told him Belazar, you can say it's like a Belazar. Because there's nothing that you already did the mitzvah, and the nesachim, the pouring is the primary mitzvah. So yeah, right, you still have to burn them in the state of sanctity, but there's nothing that you did the mitzvah, but if you do me'ilah, never could even be like a belaza. He would agree that it wouldn't have any kedushin in it to have the halacha of me'ilah. Continuing on this halacha of nisuch, Amr Shlaka, she says, when they would pour the wine on the mizbeach, what they would do is they would actually plug up these holes on the top of the mizbeach where the nesachim would go down into the shisen, because they wanted to look like that as if there's wine, like a full throat, that a guy has so much wine that's just bubbling out on the top. They plugged it up. Like Kaim Hashanim, to fulfill what the pasuk says, but Kodesh Hasei, in the holy you should pour it. That's like Sheikh Hashem, you should pour it like Sheikh Hashem, which the Gemara says, my mash, where do you see from it that you should plug up the shisen? So Amar Papa says, because sheikher, intoxicating, is a lashon shtia, term of drinking, lashon svia, terminology of satiated, and lashon shecher, a terminology of being intoxicated, which as Amar Papa says, Shemamina, what we hear from this is ki sava in a chamra. If a person is satiated from wine, which we're trying to illustrate with the nesachim of the yain, migroini sava, he becomes satiated from his throat, meaning by drinking large gulps with a full throat, then that satiates him from the wine, but not by drinking a lot, where he puts a lot of wine in his stomach, but by taking small sips. It's not like food, which your satiation comes from your stomach. Wine, the satiation comes from your throat. So we want to plug it up so it looks like there's so much in the throat that's like a bubbling over. And actually, Amar Rabbi, he actually says, for that reason, doesn't have a lot of wine, take big gulps, because what's going to make you satiated from the wine and intoxicate is from the big gulps. So if you really want to get the most out of your wine, drink big gulps. Rava actually, akasa de b'chasa, when he would actually make a bracha, a kaishal bracha, agame gamui. He would take big gulps, again, it's a way of satiation, because it shows chiva, it shows endearment for the mitzvah. Now, that pasuk that we brought before, that spoke about this of chamuki yerichayich, which we said in Omen Aleph, the Gemara now darshans that same pasuk of a different part of the pasuk. Dorish Rabbi says, Maida said, what does it mean the pasuk in that pasuk in Shirashim that we quoted on Omen Aleph? It says, Ma yafu palmayach. How beautiful are your steps, Pana Olam, and shoes, Bas Nadiv, the daughter of the nobleman. Which again, it's all an allegory, it's all a marshal at Shirashim, but we have it in the interpretation of the deeper, of the Nimshal. Says the Gemara, it means, Mayafu Pamaisein Shal Yisrael. How beautiful are the steps of the Jewish people, the word na'olim, the shoes can be read as oilin, when they're oilin l'regel, how beautiful are they when they're coming? Bas Nadiv, what do you mean the daughter of the noble? It's Bita Shel Avram Avinu. It's the daughter of, meaning we're all considered like the children of Avram Avinu. Shenikar Nadiv, he was called the Nadiv because he was menadiv his slave to recognize his creator. Like says the pasuk in Tehillim. It says Nadivi Am Nesafu. The noble ones of the nations will gather Am Elokei Avram to the people of the God of Avram. What Elokei Avram? The God of Avram Elokei Yitzchak Yaakov. What about now? He's not the God of Isaac and Jacob. No, Elokei Avram. The reason why I'm saying the God of Avram is Shal Yitchil Lager. He was the first of all converts where he was menadiv his slave. He donated his heart to me, Mekayim. And that's why we say Elokei Avram. And again, that's why Bas Nadiv refers to Avram Avinu. That's what we refer to when we're being Oil Levegel. A ton of Ravan was taught in the yeshiva of Ravanim. Ma'adir said, what does it mean over there in that same pasuk, which we, on Omen Aleph, we interpreted one way. Here in Omen Aleph, we're going to interpret it, on Omen Aleph, we interpret it a different way. It says, Chamuke Yerechayach, which Chamuke could also be translated as the roundness of your flanks, meaning of your sides, which, as Rashi says, Rav Anan expounds the pasuk when it says, Chamuke Yerechayach is Kamei Chaloyim. It means like the luchos, which were made out of precious stones. As we find the pasuk initially, Nezem Ezav v'choli kesem. Choli could also mean precious jewels. And that's what it means, Ma'aseh Aman, because actually we know, as the pasuk says, the luchos Ma'aseh Kim, the luchos were made by the craftsmen, by Hashem. So it's obviously referring to the words of Torah, to the luchos. So why is it calling it Chamuki Yechayach, the roundness of your thighs? Why the words of Torah compared to a thigh? To tell you, so just like we know, the thighs are always concealed. Whenever people are in whatever state of dress, usually their thighs are covered. So too, the words of Torah have to be also concealed. So chamuki richaych means that they're hidden like the thigh, because the dignity of Torah is when it's discreet. And you don't sit and learn on the top of the city. You don't teach your students out in the marketplace like the one says, "My cutting up the Zayin and Aleph." And behind them, Rabbi says that my dechsev wasn't mean the pasuk in Micha. Higelacha ad matayv. Tell a person what's good. Umashim dershim chol. What is Hashem looking from you? Kiyam asay smith, just to do judgment. Va'amas chesed and love kindness. V'hatzam lechasam lekecha, and go discreetly with your God. What does this pasuk mean? Asay smith, but zehaden, do judgment. That means justice. Va'amas chesed, you should love kindness. U'gmas chesed is charitable acts of kindness. And to go discreetly with your God. This means to take out a dead person. And to bring in the bride to the wedding, which it says by both of them leches. That's how we know about hasnei leches, because it says toiv leches al beis avil, which is the dead person, mileches al beis mishta, which is the kala. So the pasuk is telling, even where it says leches, which is hachnas kala and levayis hanes, even there you have to be discreet. You have to do it in the appropriate measurement, to rejoice in the appropriate measurement, and not to be a lightheaded. Or another interpretation is if you have to spend money for a person who passed away, or for achnas kala, for poor people, you should do it discreetly and don't say, "Oh, do you know who I just did for it?" No, the person shouldn't publicize it. Now, says the Gemara, interesting idea. So totally kabbalah. If those things which you generally do out in the open, a lavaya, a chasna, these are the things that people are always going to, they're the biggest things everyone knows about them. And still, Torah is telling you do it discreetly. So things which are usually done discreetly, like tzedakah, that you give to a poor person, that you don't have to notify anybody about it. Mashenkin, by a dead person, everybody's engaged, everyone knows about it. So Allah has come all the more so, and that's what Rabbi says, that everything needs to be done discreetly, and the same thing applies to learning Torah. Continuing with the same Amr of Elazar, says many different teachings regarding tzedakah and chesed. Says Gadol ha'esed tzedakah, it's greater, the one that does charity. Yes, more than all the sacrifice. You know, it says the pasuk Mishli. Asay tzedakah mishpat, do tzedakah and mishpat is nifcha Hashem. It's more precious to Hashem than zavach, which zavach everything's included in zavach. Chatas, asham, oil, shlam, the all called zavach. You see that tzedakah is greater than all the karbanas. So to remember, Allah says Gedol gemilitz chasad miyisim tzedakah. It's greater act of kindness more than charity. Krishanem says the pasuk in the Shea, it says ziru lochem letzedakah. You should plan for yourself for tzedakah, and kitzu lefi chesed, and you should harvest according to chesed. So you see the pasuk is calling tzedakah as zuriya, as planting. It's calling chesed as katz, as harvesting. Now obviously, as Gemara is about to explain, harvesting is better than planting. Because in adam zuriya, if a person plants, you're not sure if you can eat or if you're not going to eat, because it might not sprout, or might get ruined by the elements. But adam kaitu, when you're harvesting, you're most definitely going to eat because you're harvesting right now. So you see it's greater chesed than tzedakah. So too, Bamar Belazzi says, because ain't tzedakah mishtalemes, tzedakah is not paid to the person elefi chesed sheba, only according to the amount of kindness that goes into it. Because Rashi explains, the actual giving is the tzedakah, but the effort you put in is the chesed. For example, let's say you bring it to the person's house, or you go through the effort that he should be able to get the most out of it, like you're giving him baked bread, or you give him a garment to wear, or you give him money when there's grain that's found that he shouldn't waste his resources. When you're thinking about and you're putting in the effort, the extra mile, that's the reward you get in tzedakah is according to the amount of chesed that goes into it. Like says in the pasuk, ziru lechem letzedakah. Again, tzedakah is compared to the planting, where you plant so that you could harvest to get the reward, is v'kitzu lefi chesed. You're going to get the reward according to the amount of chesed that you put into the tzedakah. Talking about in the brayso that b'shleish dvarim is regarding three things. Acts of kindness are greater than charity. Why? Because tzedakah is only money with your money. And acts of kindness is whether with your body, for example, when you're eulogizing a dead person, or you're carrying the mass, or you're rejoicing the chassan, or you're escorting someone on the road, you could do chesed with your body, and beimah money also with your money too, where you can lend them money, you can lend them your animal or your vessels. Tzedakah, so too, charity is only lanim for the poor. Every person could use some chesed. Tzedakah l'chaim, most of charity is only for the living, and it's both for the living and for the dead. Another teaching on this theme, says, whoever does charity and justice, as if he filled the whole world with kindness, like it says the pasuk Dillah. He loves tzedakah mishpat, chesed Hashem al arts. So the whole world is filled with chesed. So you see, just by doing tzedakah, the whole world is filled with chesed. Now, Shekar, you say, okay, whoever comes to jump and to do tzedakah and chesed. Kaifetz, he could jump and he'll have an opportunity to have appropriate ways of doing this tzedakah. Talmud is supposed to teach until no, how precious is your kindness, God? Meaning, you have to really think about it. You have to put in effort. You have to chase after it because you don't always have opportunities of doing chesed, begun, etc. Can you think the same thing applies to Yerei Shamayim, someone who's a God-fearing person, that he also won't always have the opportunity of doing chesed? And that says the Gemara, the Talmud supposed to teach no, the chesed of Hashem is always an opportunity for Yerei. Whoever has Yerei Shamayim will always have an opportunity to do chesed. Another interpretation of that same pasuk, Omer Reb Chama Bar Papa, he says, any person that has favor by others, he has certain grace, but you know that person is God-fearing. Shemaka says, the pasuk Chesed Hashem, there's always a certain kindness on people who are God-fearing. Another teaching, Ramah Belazar says, Ma'idach Sib, wasn't in the pasuk in Mishlei, the final teaching of the Gemara, famous pasuk in Eishes Chaya. Pia pascha b'chachma. Her mouth opens up with wisdom. The Torah is chesed al shayna, and the Torah of kindness on her tongue. So the question is, Torah shel chesed, there is a Torah of kindness. There's Torah shel chesed, and a certain Torah that's not of chesed. Says the Gemara, Ella, rather Torah lishma, Torah that's done for the sake of Torah through Torah shel chesed. That's a Torah of kindness because that's the expansion of the person. Shaloi lishma, if you're not doing for the sake of Torah through Torah shel chesed, that's a Torah that's not of kindness. Or Ikadam, those that say Torah lalamda, if you're learning Torah to teach to others, through Torah shel chesed, obviously that's a Torah of chesed because you're going to be sharing it with others. That's a kindness. Shaloi lamda, if you're learning not to teach to others, through Torah shel chesed, that's a Torah that's not of kindness. Thank you to any time.